In this world, a terrifying pandemic suddenly broke out across all countries, forcing people to stay at home and making it impossible to go outside and live their normal lives. The economy collapsed further, and the world gradually came to a standstill. Humanity was in urgent need of a vaccine. Major powers rushed to invest in research, but by the time most vaccines were produced, it was discovered that the virus had already completely mutated. In order to eradicate the pandemic, vaccines had to be constantly updated, and more untested vaccines were released to the market, which ultimately led to the terrifying side effect known as the Omega zombie virus. Patients infected with the virus would forget everything, turning into bloodthirsty, hideous zombies that wandered aimlessly. As of now, 83% of the global population has been infected with Omega, becoming the walking dead. The few remaining uninfected have also gone into hiding in the jungle, waiting for the government to restore order. Among them is the Sal family. After playing in the water, Ollie and his young brother Benjamin unexpectedly discover a lost puppy on their way home. He hides behind a big tree with his brother and uses a walkie-talkie to inform their limping older brother Sal about what they've found. Upon receiving the news, Sal immediately arrived at the scene with his crossbow. He handed Ollie a bone he had prepared in advance, while he himself stood ready with the crossbow. Ollie used the bone to successfully win the puppy's trust. As soon as the puppy entered his shooting range, Sal decisively fired a bolt, knocking it to the ground. After packing up the prey's carcass, the three brothers returned home. Sal used a heavy axe to dismember the prey, and the room was soon filled with a strong scent of blood. He separated the organs and broken bones, storing them separately. Ollie cut up the bones and fed them to the caged rats. While cutting up the wild dog, Sal complained to Ollie that fresh food was becoming scarcer and scarcer. In order for his brothers to grow up healthy, he himself had already resorted to eating earthworms. He really didn't know how much longer days like this would last. After saying this, Sal chopped off the dog's head with a single stroke. But in the next moment, a piercing, shrill howl suddenly came from the basement. The two brothers were thrown into a panic when they heard the scream. Ollie took Benjamin upstairs and hid him in the wardrobe, while he and his older brother armed themselves fully and cautiously opened the basement door. The two of them walked through the dark, shadowy corridor, following the screeching sound until they reached the large iron cage. Staring at the violently trembling chains, Ollie mustered his courage and slowly unlocked the iron door. As Ollie approached, the snarling and gnawing sounds grew louder and clearer, as if the creature had sensed his presence. But suddenly, the monster's ferocity came to an abrupt halt. Back upstairs, Sal unfolded the map and began discussing with Ollie how to obtain fresh animals. The corpse of this little dog won't last much longer. Someone has to leave home and go outside to hunt for new animals. Benjamin is too young and can't be left at home alone. Sal, on the other hand, has only one leg and has difficulty moving around. After much consideration, the only option is for Sal to take Benjamin with him while Ollie stays home alone to feed the two monsters. While the two were talking, Benjamin, out of fear, had already come downstairs. To comfort their younger brother, the two took him back upstairs and took turns telling stories from the book. But Benjamin had no interest in fairy tales at all. He suspected that their parents had already been eaten by the monsters otherwise. Why hadn't they come back yet? Sal had no choice but to force himself to appear calm and told his brother that their parents had just gone out to gather supplies and that before long they would return home with plenty of provisions. But in order to hold out until that day, they would have to go out hunting tomorrow to look for fresh food. Hearing his brother's reassurance, Benjamin finally felt at ease and went back to bed. But Ollie climbed onto the bed, gazing at his clasped hands with a look of loneliness on his face. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. Benjamin woke up early, and while Ollie was still asleep, he tiptoed downstairs. He picked up the key, just about to unlock the basement door to catch a glimpse of the monster's true form, when Saul suddenly appeared. Saul shoved Benjamin to the ground and pressed his cane hard against his brother's thigh. Saul demanded to know why he was trying to open the basement door. Benjamin's face was full of resentment. He was the only one in the family who had never seen the monster's appearance. Why was Ollie allowed to help their brother feed the monster, while he could only hide in the wardrobe? Saul withdrew his cane and, after a moment of silence, earnestly advised his brother, "A monster is always a monster. If you let your guard down, it will devour you completely. If you want to share the family's burden, you should be hunting prey together with your brother." The two brothers quickly reconciled. With Ollie's embrace, they officially left home to go hunting. Ollie, fully equipped with animal organs, made his way to the basement. He carefully opened the iron door and poured the organs into the metal box. But today the monster seemed extremely agitated. Awakened by Ollie, it darted out of the darkness, frightening Ollie so much that he fled in panic. Meanwhile, after traveling through the jungle for quite some time, Sal finally discovered an abandoned base. He approached the house cautiously, holding his crossbow at the ready. The living facilities here were very complete, as if it had only recently been abandoned. After making sure no one was around, Sal searched as he made his way to the second floor. Before he could let his guard down, he discovered a hanging corpse in the corner of the room. The corpse's chest was ripped open, the heart missing, and next to it was a symbol of a horn. Witnessing this gruesome scene, Sal hurriedly took his younger brother and left the place. He marked this place on the map. But Benjamin was very pleased with this camp. He even wanted his brother to move their home here so that everyone could have their own room. Sal looked dejected, but still explained to his brother, "We can't leave. If our parents come home and find us missing, they'll be very worried." This made Benjamin even more excited. With anticipation on his face, he asked, "Will Mum and Dad be home before Christmas?" Sal was silent for a moment, unable to answer. Fortunately, the walkie-talkie crackled to life, giving Sal a chance to change the subject. He told Ollie everything that had happened today, not only to let him know they were safe, but also to share their plans for the next steps. For Ollie, facing the monster alone was almost unbearable. All he could do now was hope that his brother would return home as soon as possible. To avoid yesterday's base, Sal chose to take a side path, searching for supplies and looking for prey along the way. After riding for a while, Sal stopped by a stream. He handed the bow and crossbow to his brother while he took the canteen to collect water. Before he could fill the canteen, a strange noise came from the jungle. Sal turned around warily and saw that a bush was moving in an eerie way. Sal was startled and hurriedly got up, but accidentally dropped his backpack into the water. There was no time for regret. Sal rushed to his brother's side. They had already been targeted during this outing, and continuing on would only become more dangerous. Heading back home was the most rational choice. That night, Ollie was clutching the walkie-talkie and crying in despair Sal hadn't responded at all the entire day. He feared that the two of them had already been killed, and his despair only deepened. Fortunately, Sal brought Benjamin back home early the next morning. Seeing the two return, Ollie burst into tears of joy. Sal told Benjamin to quickly boil some water for a bath, while he himself recounted the results of the expedition to Ollie. The walkie-talkie was in the backpack, and the backpack had been swept away by the current, so they hadn't brought anything back from this trip. After returning home, not only did Benjamin not boil water, but he also took advantage of his two brothers being distracted to unlock the basement door with a key, finally coming face to face with the monster he'd been longing to see. In order to get a better look at the monster, Benjamin picked up a wooden stick and threw it directly at the creature, successfully attracting the zombies' attention. They came out into the sunlight, baring their teeth and snarling at Benjamin. The moment he saw the zombies, Benjamin froze in shock. The monsters here turned out to be his own parents. The zombie reached out with both hands and grabbed Benjamin's clothes in one swift motion. Sensing the threat of death, he immediately cried out for help with all his might, finally catching the attention of Sal and Ollie. With the help of his brothers, Benjamin was able to escape from danger. Seeing his terrified younger brother, Sal finally told him the truth. After hearing everything, the heartbroken Benjamin couldn't bear to see his parents like this and wanted to cure his loved one. This idea happened to coincide with Ollie's thoughts. The only reason their parents hadn't been killed as zombies by Sal was because Ollie firmly opposed it. Of course, Sal couldn't bear to kill their parents either, but since they had already become zombies, they constantly posed a threat to the lives of the three brothers. Even if they could always maintain proper defenses, feeding two zombies in the apocalypse would put enormous pressure on their food supply. But seeing the hopeful look in his younger brother's eyes, Sal ultimately softened. Since Benjamin already knew everything, the two brothers stopped hiding and brought the zombies out into the world. Benjamin guided him to experience nature and enjoy the world. Ollie was confident that, after a period of training, he could restore the zombies' consciousness. Over the next few days, the three brothers remained fully armed at all times, carefully controlling the zombies and letting them experience human behaviors. Thanks to the tireless efforts of the three, the zombies were far less irritable than before. Not only would they sleep on the beds that had been made for them, but under Benjamin's guidance, they could even begin to speak words. These successes greatly boosted his confidence, and he began preparing to have Christmas dinner with their parents. Saul instinctively wanted to refuse, but thinking of the progress they had made over the past few days, he agreed to this risky move. On Christmas Day, the three brothers carefully decorated the base, sweeping away the gloom of the apocalypse. At that moment, the two zombies were securely locked at the dining table, and together with the three brothers, they took their final family photo. Afterwards, accompanied by their parents, they each with different expressions finished tonight's dinner. Just as the three were immersed in this rare moment of joy, Saul noticed a stranger outside. He told Ollie and Benjamin to take the zombies back to the basement while he went outside, raising his crossbow and vigilantly scanning the surroundings. After all, Saul was missing a leg. Suddenly, a figure darted out of the darkness and quickly knocked him to the ground. The person in black raised a crossbow, watching the three of them warily. Saul looked terrified, claiming that their parents had already gone out and only the three of them were left at home. Benjamin, however, looked innocent and explained that they were just celebrating Christmas dinner and meant no harm. Upon learning that the three were having a lavish dinner, a smile grew on Leah's lips. She strode confidently into the dining room and devoured the remaining food without hesitation. After eating and drinking her fill, Leah took the initiative to return the backpack she had found in the river to Saul. It was from the map inside the backpack that he had found this place. Leah glanced at the furnishings in the room and asked Saul about his parents' identities. When she learned that they were an engineer and a nurse, Leah gradually showed an expression of envy. In the apocalypse, these two professions could be considered a perfect match. In order to win Saul's favor, she took the initiative to share the latest information she had gathered. It was said that Russia had successfully developed a serum to treat the Omega virus, and they were currently distributing medical supply boxes around the world to help people cure the zombies. If they were willing, it would be best for them to search for medical supply boxes like she did, as this would allow her to become immune to the zombie virus in the apocalypse. Hearing this, Ollie and Benjamin became very excited. But Saul had clearly lost faith in the vaccine, and he asked Leah to leave as soon as she finished eating. His parents hated seeing strangers at the base, but Benjamin took a liking to Leah and, almost involuntarily, asked her if she wanted to watch a movie. Leah was very surprised and showed a keen interest in watching a movie during the apocalypse. Even though Saul was unwilling, Leah still came to the living room and watched a movie powered by a hand-crank generator. After the movie ended, Ollie and Benjamin returned to their rooms. Saul once again asked Leah to leave, but she requested to stay for one more night. Helpless, Saul had no choice but to agree to her request. But early the next morning, Leah rummaged through the kitchen. Just as she found the kitchen, she was drawn by a sound coming from the basement. Leah picked up the key and came to the cage in the basement. Sensing an unfamiliar presence, the zombie suddenly darted out of the darkness and grabbed Leah by the hair, pinning her tightly against the cage. Feeling the threat of death, Leah struggled desperately and cried out for help. Just as Saul arrived in the basement, he witnessed this terrifying scene. He used all his strength to pull Leah out of the iron cage. The zombie, staring at the torn-off scalp, excitedly stuffed it into its mouth. Leah collapsed to the ground and questioned Saul about why he was keeping a zombie captive. Before Saul could answer, Leah was once again grabbed by the zombie and dragged into the cage. Leah was terrified, forced to watch helplessly as she was disemboweled and devoured by the zombie until nothing was left. Saul screamed in horror, realizing that the domestication from a few days ago seemed like a joke. Leah was quickly eaten until only half her body remained. This accident dealt a severe blow to Saul's confidence. Not only that, after tasting human flesh, the zombie would rather starve to death than eat any other kind of meat. Ollie and Benjamin were heartbroken. In order to save their parents, the two of them planned to set traps and kill people to feed the zombie. Saul didn't want their values to become twisted, so he went down to the basement, intending to kill his parents with a crossbow. But his mother seemed to have regained some intelligence. She knelt in front of Saul, pressing her head against the crossbow bolt. Realizing that his mother had regained her mind, Saul still crossed the line and decided to feed the zombies with human flesh. With his arrangement, Ollie and Benjamin successfully found a target. They called for help to draw the stranger's attention to Benjamin, while Ollie hid in the shadows. After using a trap to break the man's leg, Ollie finally pulled out his crossbow, preparing to kill him. But Ollie had no experience with killing, and after hesitating for a long time, it was Benjamin who ultimately acted, beating the stranger to death. The two of them wrapped up the body and dragged it back to their base. It's possible that the mysterious figure in the woods witnessed the entire tragedy. After dismembering the body and feeding it to the zombies, danger soon arrived at their base as well. As a deep, resonant horn sounded in the distance, the three brothers hurried to the window, watching the outside world with heightened vigilance. Recalling the mysterious horn symbol, Sal instantly felt a chill run down his spine. The three brothers were on full alert when they finally noticed someone breaking in through the window. Sal raised his crossbow, eyeing the intruder warily, but the man lifted his hands to show he meant no harm. When Sal asked about his intentions, the man replied in terror that there was something terrifying behind him and that they needed to join forces to resist the strange threat. Sal looked utterly confused, but the man gave a mocking smile and began his own speech. Sal was completely at a loss, but his expression grew increasingly tense. Soon after, the man pulled aside his clothes, revealing a chest marked with the carved horn symbol. Sal was shocked and about to fire, only to realize that the shotgun in his hands was already broken. More and more enemies broke through the doors and windows. Sal fled in panic, but was kicked to the ground by the man, who then stabbed Sal in the chest with a dagger. Ollie, armed with a crossbow, rescued Sal from the enemies together with Benjamin. They hid in the basement while the cultists had also finished gathering. In order to survive, Sal had no choice but to release two zombies. The father quickly tackled one of the enemies but was shot in the chest by others with a handgun. Seeing this, the mother fled in panic. The cultists used only one tear gas grenade and successfully captured the three brothers. When Sal woke up again, he was already tied to a tree by the cultists. Meanwhile, the cultists were performing a mysterious ritual with the Russian serum. As the ritual progressed, Sal was tied to the altar by them. The enemy raised a dagger and plunged it into Sal's chest. With a twist of his hands, a beating heart was pulled out. At that moment, the shrieks of zombies echoed from the forest. Ollie broke down in tears, only to realize that he had already been freed from his restraints. His mother, now a zombie, moved like a ghost in the night, relentlessly taking the lives of their enemies. Ollie gripped his pistol tightly, constantly covering his mother. Together, they quickly wiped out the cultists in the area. Ollie approached the serum, only to discover that the man with the horn had already taken it. With his bullets spent, Ollie was easily subdued by him. Fortunately, his mother arrived just in time and managed to save Ollie. Ollie seized the opportunity to grab the altar's gasoline and doused the man with it. As the flames roared, the cultists were completely wiped out. Ollie then took out the serum and injected it into his mother. But during this harrowing ordeal, Benjamin was accidentally bitten. After that night, Ollie erected gravestones for his father and brother. He then left home with his mother and the now zombified Benjamin, continuing the search for a new serum. The end.